Hi guys, I'm Kristen. Welcome and welcome back. So slightly different filming setup today, but we're just going to go with it. Today I am sharing my end of the year book tag with you, and this is a book tag that was originally created by Ariel Bissett. I will link the original video down below, and it is just a small book tag video that, despite the name, is usually done in the fall. There's even an autumnal question, but really it's sort of like a book tag with questions to make you think about leading into the end of the year, not necessarily at the end of the year itself. But this is a great tag to do around this time to just sort of like reflect on what you have going on reading wise. How's your year been to date? Do you have any particular like things to think about as we lead into the last quarter of the year? If you have a channel and you're going to do this tag, let me know down below. Don't link it or it'll get deleted, but just let me know and I will check it out. Or if you don't have a channel and you want to answer some or all of the questions in the comment box down below, I would love to hear your answers for this tag. Now, usually with tag videos, the idea here is to come up with like one answer or like one book for each of the questions, but I always find that tag videos are a place where I hear about other books, where I hear about other books that people are liking or that they have on their radar. So I actually came up with like a variety of answers for each of the questions to help you hear about more books, hopefully. So it is a short and sweet tag, but let's just jump into it. Starting with the first question, are there any books you started this year that you need to finish? Yes. So I have two soft DNFs, I guess, from earlier this year, one of which was intentional, and that was The Witch King by Martha Wells. This one I was listening to the audio and just wasn't sold on it as an audiobook for the style of world building that it was for me, so I will probably be picking up, or I have the ebook on hold. I'd like to get to that at some point, but it's not a huge priority for me. This is a new release from this year where we are following a demon who wakes up after having been like put to sleep or sort of killed, I guess, after hundreds of years. And they're woken up by someone trying to kind of like possess them, like take control of their power, etc. And they quickly take control of that situation. And they are on a mission to find the wife of their main companion who is also trapped in where they are, where they find themselves woken up. So that is the story. The other book that I accidentally DNF'd, this one was an accident, and that was The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence. I was about 40%, I think, into this book when I lost my library hold. So I'm back on hold at the library. I also have requested specifically the audiobook. I was reading the ebook, but I'm going to probably be doing more audiobook listening in the fall. So I've asked for the audiobook copy for that one. This one had a very vague synopsis. And it was like we're following a boy who is trapped and has been forever, or for like a really long time, in this like labyrinthine-esque library. And then we also follow a girl who is apparently more somewhat whatever, like a chosen one kind of type trope, where they're from like a really, really small village and they get, for reasons, taken in and brought to the city. And from there, their stories meld or make their way towards each other. I hadn't quite reached that point. I was very intrigued, very, very cool, interesting setting. So I was really enjoying it. Just looking forward to pick that one up. So that one's obviously more of a priority for me to pick up and finish before the end of the year compared to Witch King, which was sort of like, I would love to get to it if I can. It has started to pour rain outside and I sit like right in front of my window. So if you can hear like the pitter patter of rain in the background, I apologize. But ambiance for the fall, right? Which is perfect for the next question. Do you have an autumnal book to transition into the end of the year? So I have a few that I have my eye on, one of which I actually just finished, and it's right at the very end of August at the time of filming this for me. So that was Thornhedge by T. Kingfisher. This is a new novella that was just released, I think, at some point in the summer, I think maybe July. And it is a retelling of Sleeping Beauty, but it is not really focusing on Sleeping Beauty. It is told from the perspective of Toadling, who is involved in watching the tower where Sleeping Beauty is held. It is a super, super short novella. It was only 4 hours at one time speed of the audiobook that I listened to. So I don't want to say anything other than that to give it away. You can check out my August wrap up as well if you would like to know my thoughts on that. But, you know, retellings are always a nice fall book. Another one that I have my eye on for the fall that I think will be like really, really good vibes for that is Practical Magic by Alice Hoffman. This is a series I actually started a couple years ago. I read the historical prequel following their like great something where the curse actually started. So I'm sure you have heard of Practical Magic. It's a very popular movie that everyone watches in the fall that I actually have never seen, so maybe I will watch that this year. But this is a beloved book of one friend of mine, Kristen from Kristen Crave's books, and I actually buddy read Magic Lessons with her a couple years ago. So I have been meaning to read and pick up Practical Magic since then. We were following, I think, like a group of sisters who are witches in like a contemporary setting at the time that it was written, and they have a family curse where any man that they fall in love with is cursed to die. So I don't know anything else about it other than that. The historical prequel that I read, Magic Lessons, was about how that curse came to be. So I'm looking forward to getting to the original book, Practical Magic, this fall. I think it'll be like perfect October, you know, spooky season kind of vibes. On that note, for specifically October, I also have my next option for the month of October, which is spooky season themed. So make sure to stay tuned and vote for that. The video I think is coming out the first weekend in October, or like the very end of September, or the first weekend in October, depending on the date. It's coming out on a Sunday, so you can check that out and pick a specifically spooky season themed book for me to read in October. They will all be perfect for the fall, I can guarantee you. And then I also have my eye on The Weaver and the Witch Queen by Genevieve Gornichek. This is the same author that wrote Witch's Heart a few years ago. And this is another Scandinavian historical inspired fantasy. And this follows the lives of two women, one desperate only to save her missing sister, the other a witch destined to become Queen of Norway. Their lives intertwine in this spellbinding, powerful novel of Viking Age history and myth. I feel like historical fantasy in general is a really good like fall vibes kind of a genre, but then in addition to that, I also feel that way about like Scandinavian inspired books. So needless to say, I think this will be really, really good for the fall. Question number 3, is there a new release you're still waiting for? And I will say that in the fall, like in this last quarter of the year, there aren't that many new releases that I am really excited about. There's a couple that I have my eye on, but I would say like all of the big books that I was really like, I have them like my top books for the year, which were all in August. But a lot of the books that I was more excited about, I think, were in the first half of the year. So I don't know a ton of fall and winter releases that I'm terribly excited, but I went through and I found a few to tell you about today. So I'll start off with Mammoths at the Gate by Niveau, and this is the 4th and final, I believe, book in the Singing Hills cycle. This is the series of novellas following a non-binary monk/cleric named Chi, who is like a gatherer of historical details and a gatherer of stories, kind of, in an Asian-inspired setting. This is the first book of which is, of course, The Empress of Salt and Fortune, and this is the 4th and final book. I'm planning to listen to the audiobook. Really excited about that. I've read the first 3 books, or the first 3 novellas, earlier this year. So looking forward to getting back to this one. The Pomegranate Gate by Ariel Kaplan I thought sounded really interesting. I had down from either on Goodreads or NetGalley that this was coming out at the end of September. But then when I was book shopping recently, I'm actually fairly sure that I saw a copy of it on the shelf. So maybe it's like a UK versus US release thing. But either way, this one caught my eye. And this is a Jewish folklore-inspired historical fantasy set during the Spanish Inquisition that is a portal fantasy, and comps here are Naomi Novik and Catherine Arden, which I think are comps that make a lot of sense. The lighting has changed so much since I started filming this because of the rain, so I'm so sorry. But this is actually my second attempt at filming this because I missed one of the questions, and I also didn't explain all of the books to you in a way that I was happy with. So I'm not redoing it. This is just the way that it is. So anyway, that's either coming out at the end of September or it's already out, but I think it sounds really interesting and I hope to get a copy of that. Another new release, it's sort of, it's another one where it's like actually kind of already out, but not for everyone, and that is The Endless War by Danielle L. Jensen. This is the 4th book in the Bridge Kingdom series. This is a fantasy romance series that is almost like split up into different duologies. So the first two books follow one particular coupling, and the second 2 books follow a different romantic pairing. So this is the second and final book in this particular romantic pairing. So The Endless War is published by Audible, and so that's why it's like already sort of out. It comes out on as an Audible exclusive first, and then 6 months later it comes out as the ebook. So the ebook is coming out in October. So I'll be able to finally read that then. And the Bridge Kingdom is set in this like fantastical world where warring kingdoms that pivot around this Bridge Kingdom, which is a series. It's actually more like an archipelago, but they have control over this bridge that like spans this very temperamental sea. So they kind of control, or the Bridge Kingdom kind of controls a lot of the trade within this world. Starts out with a political marriage, and in that's like a I came here to kill you kind of a setup in the Bridge Kingdom. Highly recommend those two. And then the second pairing are actually like the heirs to 2 long-time warring kingdoms. So this will be the conclusion to their arc. I also have The Unmaking of June Pharaoh on my eye. I included this in my anticipated releases video for the year by Adrienne Young, and this is another one of her adult magical realism adjacent books, where we are following June Pharaoh, who I believe is a member of a family who something like strange happens to all the women in their family at a certain age. They're believed to be cursed. I think she starts, experiencing some symptoms and is at the same time trying to solve the murder of, or not the murder, but trying to figure out like what went wrong with her mom as well. And then, of course, I think everyone is going to have this on their list, Bookshops and Bone Dust by Travis Baldree, of course, which is the prequel novella to Legends and Lattes, where we are following, what's the main character's name? Viv? Something like that? The ogre or orc? I think orc. From the first book, Legends and Latte, who opens up a coffee shop in that one. This is their kind of like prequel story when they were injured and they had to take like some time off of being a mercenary. And I think it's like where they discovered coffee, but they also somehow get caught up into like the opening of a bookshop. So I'm sure it'll be cute. I'm sure it'll be cozy. It's coming out in November. I think it'll be perfect for that. Question number 4, which is the question that I missed the first time that I did this, and that is, what are 3 books you want to read before the end of the year? I wrote down 3 that I was like genuinely serious about, like I want to read these before the end of the year, but actually I honestly don't think I'm gonna get to any of them. So weird that I am including them, but it is honest. These are books that I really want to get to before the end of the year, but they're all also books that I have only access to in ebook format, and I'm just not sure how ebook reading is going to go for me in the latter quarter of the year here, and they're all big chunky books. So I'm not sure. I might be setting myself up for failure with this. I'm almost assuredly setting myself up for failure by choosing these 3 books. But nonetheless, they are Golden Fool by Robin Hobb. This is the 2nd book in the Tawny Man series, which is the 3rd series, I believe, in the Realm of the Elderlings. I was doing like a Realm of the Elderlings reread / continuation, or filling out series that I had missed or hadn't gotten to yet last year, and I kind of stalled out at the first book in Tawny Man because I was doing it as a buddy read, and Maria from Maria Might Read That was not enjoying the series as much as I was. And then I just never picked it up on my own, so I would like to get to that. I actually physically own this, and it is technically a reread, but I read it so long ago I don't actually remember anything that happens. But I would like to get back into the Realm of the Elderlings and keep going. I also have The Hunger of the Gods by John Gwynne written down. For a variety of reasons, I've had this on hold since it came out last year, and I basically hit postpone every single month. I'm not sure why. It just never seems like the right time to pick it up. Hunger of the Gods. This is the 2nd book in the Bloodsworn saga, first book of which is Shadow of the Gods, and in this we are following 3 different characters, although I believe that we're getting more characters in Hunger of Gods. But we start off with 3 characters, one who is a, recently released slave who is joining a mercenary-ish group. We are following a retired mercenary who is searching for someone, very important to them. And then we're also following another female warrior who is part of like a different kind of mercenary band. And in this world, there used to be gods that walked among the earth, and the descendants of the old gods have magic. But now, because of because of the apocalypse kind of thing that happened, people with magic are referred to as being tainted, and they are captured and sold into slavery. So that is the first book. Had a very dramatic ending, but then I heard just kind of like meh, kind of mediocre things about the second book. Very mixed things about the second book, and I just haven't gotten around to picking it up. So I would like to read that this year, if possible. And then the third book that I have on this list that I want to read before the end of the year is Grace of Kings by Ken Liu, and this was one of the priority series starts for the year. It did not win the month that I put it forward as a pick my next new fantasy series start. So really, it's on you guys. I think I said that for something else recently too. I blamed you guys for not having read Painted Devils yet. Anyway, haven't read it yet. I really, really want to, but I feel like I need to be in the right headspace to read this, and I'm not sure if the last quarter of the year is going to be it for me, just with life stuff going on, but we shall see. And this one, I don't actually know like a ton about the synopsis. I think it follows, it's a Asian historically inspired setting, particularly inspired by a particular revolution, a particular dynasty, I believe. And I think that the first book follows like either like a rebellion and sort of the results of the rebellion, and the rest of the series follows the unfolding of life post-rebellion. But I hear amazing things. I think I'm gonna really love it. I just gotta pick it up. I just gotta get to it. Question number 5. Is there a book you think could still shock you and become your favorite book of the year? And every year, everyone always says, if you think it's going to be a favorite, why would that be a shock? Etc., etc., etc. I'm listing off some books I think that could be favorites, okay? First of which here is The Labyrinth's Heart by M.A. Carrick. I have not read this yet. This is the 3rd and final book, the conclusion in the Rook and Rose series, which is, I think, like, unless the ending tanks, which I don't think it's going to, consider like with some of the, I've been avoiding reviews, but you also see thumbnails, so I don't think this is going to tank, in which case it is set up to be one of my new favorite series of all time. So I think that one has the potential to be a new favorite book of the year. This is the series following Ren, who is a con artist who comes back to the city where she grew up to con her way into one of the noble houses in order to be like formally adopted by the family and get access to their accounts. But little does she know, the family is on the brink of being destitute, and it's sort of like the classic con book that's a long con where a human connection kind of starts making things complicated. There is a masked vigilante on top of all of this. It's like very Batman meets Robin Hood-esque in vibes. It is very white glove ballroom kind of fantasy, but still like nitty gritty, grimy, real city kind of vibes as well. Just a really, really cool world. Really interesting magic systems. There's like a tarot card magic system. It's pattern reading. They are like super into astronomy that plays into it, and there's like a written form of magic as well. It's just a really cool world. I can't wait to read the ending, and I totally think it could be a favorite book of the year. I also think The Words of Kings and Prophets by Shauna Lawless could be a new favorite as well. The Children of Gods and Fighting Men, the first book in this series, The Gale Song, is definitely one of my favorite books from the first half of the year. I think that's the one that I said was my favorite from the first half of the year. And this is coming out in mid-September. This is a historical fantasy series set in Ireland at the time where there were like both Irish and Viking settled kings in Ireland. And we're following 2 female characters of historically like the mythical founding kind of peoples of Ireland, the Tuatha Dé Danann and the Fomorians. So we are following two women in this time period, and we're kind of following how they create agency for themselves in a world and a time period when they really don't have that much agency. So it's like, how do these two individual women create their own agency? And they do so very, very differently. So really loved the first book. I thought the perspectives were so interesting. I listened to the audiobook, it was amazing, and I cannot wait to see where this next book goes. So definitely has the potential to be another favorite. And then the final book that I put forward as a possible favorite here is The Justice of Kings by Richard Swan, I think is his name. This is another one that didn't win the Pick My Next video from the month that I put it forward, which I think was the new series, no, missed new release from last year that I didn't get to. Not important. But I really want to read it anyway. And I actually am currently reading it and enjoying it. But I had this on the list before I had actually picked it up. And there's just something about it that makes me think that I'm going to really like it. I just have this instinct, before I had even started reading it, I just have this instinct that I'm really going to like it. Despite the fact that I didn't read it last year because I started hearing mixed reviews about it, particularly from people that I think generally I tend to have similar reading tastes as, who didn't like it. That kind of made me hesitate. But then again, often the things that I hear are things that, as critiques, I'm like, oh, I don't actually think that would bother me. This, we are following Sir Conrad von Volt, I believe, and he is a justice of the empire who travel around, taking cases, and they are basically like detective, judge, and executioner all in one. But we were following his story from the eyes of his 19-year-old female clerk, Helena, who is a very particular narrator, and actually is a lot of the critiques, and a lot of people didn't like the character of Helena. And I think the idea is that they are in a case, and they get kind of swept up into a potential conspiracy. But as I said, I just have this like sense that I'm gonna really love this book. So I'm quite enjoying it, but I won't say anything other than that. But that was already on my list before I picked this up, I swear. And then the sixth and final question here is, have you already started making reading plans for next year? And this one is a big nope. You guys know that I am expecting a baby anytime now in the moment that I'm filming this. I'm actually already overdue, but at the time that you are seeing this, most likely I have a newborn at home with me. So my plans reading-wise next year is just, hopefully I'm still reading. Hopefully I am still able to like keep reading, at least in some capacity, and keep uploading to my channel. Those are my main goals. I think audiobooks from out of here is going to be a big component of that. But yeah, that's it. No specifics, no series priorities. I just want to make sure that I'm still reading. That's a big priority for me. So that is it. That is my end of the year book tag for 2023. As I said before, if you do this tag as well, let me know down below and I'll check yours out. Or if you just want to fill in the questions or some of the questions down below, I'd love to hear what you think. So I will see you guys next time. Talk to you later. Bye.